Red Auerbach on national TV is there lighting up a cigar talking about, where's your dynasty, Lakers? It's right here. Imagine that, the GM of the other team talking smack to the rival, saying, where's the dynasty? The championship is with us. This is what the NBA is about when it's at its best. And when you say this is not Bird or Magic or this is not Lakers Celtics, nothing is ever exactly the same, but the spirit is very similar. Yes, it is Bird and Magic, Lakers Celtics, KD LeBron, Cavs, Warriors. That's what's going on here. An intense rivalry between the two best teams in the league, championships going back and forth, an arms race, the competition making the level of play increase to the point where we're now seeing maybe the best basketball ever played. This is amazing. I love this. I love LeBron going at Draymond going at LeBron. I love LeBron coming right back. You're right. LeBron's going to lose because his team lost. He loses this smack-talking round. But I love the fact that the King is coming back and talking about he wants to reclaim what he feels essentially is his. This is great.
Well, you know what? You know what, Max? If the King wants to come back, let him come back against Durant. This would be more potent if it were Durant talking. You want to talk to me about Bird and Magic? You want to talk to me about frenemies or friendly enemies or whatever the hell it was? You know what? I want to see Durant doing that kind of talking and LeBron responding to the brother that just averaged 35, 8, and 5 against him. That's what I want to see. Draymond Green is the glue guy. He could be on my team any day of the week. He's an all-star. He's all-purpose individual. He's a point forward as far as I'm concerned, and he definitely is the Energizer Bunny. I'm not trying to diminish his cachet or his stature in any way. That's my man. I love Draymond. But when I think about LeBron going at somebody, I want you to go at Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant didn't have much to say, at the parade, but remember what he said while the finals were going on. It was LeBron that started this with the super team. He was the one that instigated this whole process. Y'all looking at me, look at that dude. Then he went out there and he gave it to everybody in sight. You want to go at somebody, you want to give me something to look forward to in terms of individual combatants going at one another verbally and otherwise. I would like to see LeBron and KD go at one another.
You're
because
right.
obviously that's head up. That's where I'm at with it. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, look, they did that. LeBron and KD did have that little face-off, and that was awesome, right? Unfortunately, the Cavs need to get their game up a little bit to make the series a little bit more competitive. But, yeah, when LeBron and KD were jawing, that was great. But, again, I'll go back to best of enemies because it reminds people, when people talk about the Lakers and the Celtics in the glory days, and it really was all that for the kids who missed it, because I was a kid then, and it was great. But when you're reminded of the details, ML Carr was the big smack talker on the bench for the Celtics. I mean, he was the instigator,
and no one
really.
Cared. And no one cared.
Well, I mean,
no one cared. No one gave a damn about ML Carr other than him waving the towel. If it wasn't for him waving the towel, no one would have even noticed him. Stop. Don't embarrass don't you embarrass yourself on national TV by throwing ML Carr into the equation. Don't you dare.
Actually, you're embarrassing yourself by ignoring what that means. And Draymond Green is not ML Carr. Draymond Green is a central figure.
Exactly.
So if ML Carr was part of the entertainment back then, how is Draymond doing this to LeBron not as a part of the entertainment now? He may not be KD, but he's something approaching that rather than approaching some guy on the bench with a towel. I did not say he was not a part of it.
I did not say he was not a part of it. See, what you do is you're a master at picking a word here and there and trying to change the narrative to be something totally different than what I meant. I did not say anything about Draymond being a part of it or not being a part of it. What I said was I don't want to see LeBron going at him. I want to see LeBron going at KD. That's what I'm interested in.
But KD
just like I wasn't interested in seeing. Yeah, it was nice to see ML Carr waving the towel during the games. But when the game time came and off the court you heard comments, you didn't care.
Stephen
You heard more about Cedric Maxwell than you cared about ML Carr.
Stephen A., you started by saying you're not trying to hear from LeBron James right now. LeBron just lost. Don't play music in the video and come with a little comeback video, all that stuff, right? I'm saying I love LeBron coming back. I agree with you. He loses in this confrontation no matter what because his team lost, but I love him coming back. You following up talking about if it's KD. But KD didn't go at LeBron. LeBron can only clap back at who went at him, and he's in no position just to start clapping.
He went at it when KD went at him is when they were playing. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, before the games and during the game.
Yeah.
That's when he went at him. That's when he went at him. So, and then you know, to really crystallize where I'm coming from, look, I'm not trying to cast any aspersions on LeBron James. We know he's the greatest in the world. My issue is that, damn, you just lost Monday. I mean, you know, I don't want to hear from you right now. You just lost Monday.
He shouldn't be.
I mean, Monday.
Stephen A. He can't just get punked, though. Come on.
Right.
You're the ultimate counterpuncher, Stephen A. He can't just sit there. Then he looks weak.
Well, first of all, that is true. I am the ultimate counterpuncher. Very, very astute on your part, Molly. But the other thing that I would like to add is this. Again, Draymond isn't doing anything to LeBron that LeBron didn't do to the Warriors when they won the chip last year. All I'm saying is that it just happened Monday. You sat up there and told the media, do y'all have one last question to ask me before y'all don't hear from me for a long time? That's what he said. So why are we hearing from you on Thursday, the day of the Warriors parade? You lost, bro. You got to suck that up.
His name was in Draymond's mouth. So he's just going back at Draymond.
Okay.
He's not going
I'm
at
just telling you,
KD
it's not a
because
big
KD
deal.
didn't go at him.
Ain't nobody losing sleep over it.
No.
I'm just telling y'all, you lost Monday. Any talking you did, I would have liked to have heard it while the series was going on.
This is the best.
I get it.
love this. Keep talking, everybody.
I get it. You think he should still be in hiding, but at the end of the day, we all agree it's much ado about nothing. Let's keep it moving, though, guys. So the Warriors looked unstoppable this year. That's an understatement. Let's look at what some other teams can do to catch up. The Spurs can get healthy. The Celtics have the top pick in this draft, and the Cavs are likely to make a move this offseason. Max, which team will make a push to challenge those Warriors?
None of these teams can really challenge the Warriors. It's going to take outside of the box thinking to give someone a puncher's chance to beat them. So, in fact, the team that I think has demonstrated in the recent past the willingness to take those kind of risks, think creatively, identify undervalued assets, play in a way that at least gives them a chance to pull off an upset is the Houston Rockets with Daryl Morey. He's the one who should always the Spurs. You can't ever leave out the Spurs. I get it, everybody, I get it. But they still need the horses. They're not going to beat the Warriors without the horses. They need to add some big-time components. But the Rockets are the team, and Daryl Morey is the GM with a track record of identifying undervalued players like James Harden. We all knew James Harden was a really good player. Daryl Morey looked at him and saw that guy could be a superstar with his team of analytics, the whole thing. He realized that James Harden was much more special than most realized, and he pulled off a heist for them. He's the guy who hired Mike D'Antoni and thought, look, if we just double down on what D'Antoni was doing with the Suns, at least we have a chance, a puncher's chance. He said on a podcast in the middle of the season, look, we're not as good as the Warriors. We're not going to beat the Warriors unless we get lucky, because our style of play is such that if we get lucky, and we need to get lucky, we can maybe beat them 4 out of 7. And he's right. At least it's like a fighter, Stephen A., who's outclassed, and if he just keeps boxing with the other guy, with Floyd Mayweather, he's just going to keep losing every round. And so someone in the corner eventually says, okay, forget what we're doing, throw caution to the wind, go for the knockout. It probably means he'll get knocked out even quicker, but at least it gives him a chance to land a shot. And that's what the Houston Rockets are. They're the one fighter who's looking for the knockout and will be willing to take a puncher's chance, and therefore they have a puncher's chance. I say Daryl Morey's Rockets.
Well, I understand that. That makes a lot of sense, but I'm going to go with the Boston Celtics. And the reason why is because before you get to the Warriors, you got to get through the Cavs. And I'm thinking that the Boston Celtics can challenge the Cavs, assuming things work out with the draft. They pick the right #1 overall pick, A, and B, they get a marquee talent in free agency, potentially somebody like Gordon Hayward, who they're obviously looking to grab, and they got to compete with Miami and a couple of other teams in order to get him. The reason I bring up the Boston Celtics, Max, is also because of this. Isaiah Thomas can't play for Game 3. Boston steps out on that basketball court, and they beat the Cleveland Cavaliers in Game 3. Marcus Smart had the game of his life with 7 threes. He drops 27. Avery Bradley, who, as far as I'm concerned, is an underappreciated player in this league, he drops 20 that game. You're talking about potentially adding a big-time guard if not Josh Jackson, to the equation, even though I don't think they need Josh Jackson as much as others might, because I like this kid, Jaylen Brown, who we saw at First Take the other day. He's got a lot of upside, and I believe in this brother. I think that he can do some things. So when I look at Boston, if you get a Markelle Fultz or somebody like that, and you're pairing them with Isaiah, and then you add a Gordon Hayward, but you keep Avery Bradley intact, you keep Marcus Smart, you've got Horford and Kelly Olynyk, and then you take into account question marks about Kevin Love and his debilitating health, even though he was still healthy enough to play in the finals or whatever. Age, attrition, knees, back, etc. We don't know what his status is going to be moving forward, and we don't know what moves Cleveland are going to make in the offseason or before the trading deadline. So when I take all of those things into consideration, it's not that I don't think you're right about Houston being a challenge to the Golden State Warriors, but I'm surmising and assuming that the Warriors will find a way to come out of the West yet again, which brings me to the Eastern Conference. And even though the Cavs should and will be the favorites, certainly in my eyes and most basketball aficionados, when I think about what the Boston Celtics have the potential to do because of the multitude of picks that they have at their disposal, combined with the cap space to go out and get a marquee player, you're talking about these dudes finally deciding to swing for the fences. And if they do that and they're successful in doing so, even if it meant getting their hands on a Carmelo, if not a Gordon Hayward, if you do something like that, then you're in position to challenge the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I think that's something we should pay attention to.
Yeah, well, look, I like the pick of the Celtics, and I considered them. Ultimately, the reason I don't go with the Celtics, and they are loaded, they're deep. You bring up Jaylen Brown, number 3 overall pick. Marcus Smart was the 6th overall pick. Now they have the 1st overall pick. The Al Horford signing was a great signing because he's the modern big, the best available modern big who can do everything you want the modern big to do, play in, play out. And also weakened a rival. Obviously, Isaiah Thomas is an amazing offensive player, right? Avery Bradley, underrated, et cetera, et cetera. So they're really deep and good. You add Gordon Hayward, it makes them even better. The problem is this. Absent a top 5 NBA player on your team, the history of the NBA indicates that you're only going to win a championship if you don't have that top 5 player, right? That genuine superstar, LeBron, KD, Kawhi, someone like that. If you don't have that guy, it's not enough just to be a really good, really deep team. You have to be special at something, especially excellent at something. Like the Pistons in both iterations of their championships, the Bad Boys and then again in 2004, were a special defensive team. We're special defensive teams. The Dallas Mavericks that beat the Heat that year and blew out the Lakers in the Western Conference before they even got to the finals. That was a team that shot especially well, and they were also very tall. They were like the tallest team in the NBA, and they shot the hell out of the ball. So these Celtics, while they're deep and good, and I agree with you, there's a lot to like, unless one of the players you mentioned, even a Gordon Hayward, takes a kind of developmental leap qualitatively, they become something they're not right now, a top 5 player, a bona fide super-duper star. I don't see what they do that's so special that's it's gonna put them over the top against a team like, for example, Cleveland, who has the best player in the game and other all-stars.
Well, keep in mind that the question involves challenging the Warriors. And obviously, you know, when you look at what could potentially happen to Cleveland, that's where everything becomes very, very interesting. Of course, we're not going to give anybody in the East an edge over LeBron James and Kyrie. We're just not going to do that. But at the same time, Isaiah Thomas, we looked at him and we said, okay, no, you can't be a number 1 option and win in the playoffs with a 5'9" miniature point guard who can score lights out. That's not going to get it done. But if you have a bigger person like a Gordon Hayward, like a Carmelo Anthony, who could be a number 1 option, then all of a sudden that elevates the potency of Isaiah Thomas. And if Isaiah Thomas's potency is elevated, Max, because you have a Melo or a Hayward, then what does that do with the Avery Bradleys and Marcus Smarts of the world and others? It opens the floodgates and makes it more of a challenge, which is what makes it very, very interesting.
I guess what I'm saying, you're right in terms of all that stuff. I guess what I'm saying is that if you really want to challenge the Warriors and not just lose gallantly to them, hey, good try, good effort, but actually challenge them, you have to create some kind of asymmetry. In other words, you can't just be symmetrical. You're going to try to fight fire with fire. They have too much firepower. You have to do something that creates an imbalance on the chessboard. And the Rockets are the most likely team to do that.
So ultimately, we're looking at the Rockets, Celtics, Cavs, and then, of course, we're not ever going to sleep on the Spurs.
We also got to remember we didn't see much firepower from the Houston Rockets once some imposter, imitated James Harden, stole his jersey, and showed up to the game. We don't know who the hell was there. It wasn't James Harden.
Maybe he'll respond from that performance. We shall see. Gentlemen,
it wasn't James Harden. He doesn't have to respond. It wasn't him. Somebody stole his uniform. That was not James Harden.
Whoever stole James Harden's uniform, give it back.
All right, coming up, is the mega fight between Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor really about something else besides the actual fight? We'll tell you what that could be. Plus, after a fantastic rookie season, has Dak Prescott leapt into the upper echelon of NFL quarterbacks? Somebody at the desk thinks so. Stay tuned. Fox Wednesday. It'll be Canelo Alvarez and Triple G. And on Friday, we have actor Josh Duhamel. So be tuned in all week. Could we have seen the last of CP3 in Clip City? Chris Paul plans to meet with the Rockets and Nuggets. According to an LA Times report, CP3 has an early termination option and is expected to become a free agent this offseason. Paul isn't getting any younger, and he's never reached a conference final in his 12 NBA seasons. Stephen A., how far has his star fallen?
It's dipped, but I'm not going to blame it on his skill set per se. What I'm going to do is share with you what NBA guys are telling me. They say, look at the progress that has been made by James Harden. Look at the progress that has been made by Russell Westbrook. Look at the progress that has been made by Steph Curry. And then ask yourself, where does Chris Paul lie in all of this? They point to his greatness, but they also highlight the fact that it's the same greatness that he came into the league with. He's been consistently who he is. He's been a stellar floor orchestrator, arguably the best in the business in terms of literally orchestrating an offense and running the show. But at the same time, he hasn't elevated his level of play the way those other guys are. And then they combine that with the fact that he's never even played in a conference finals, while all of them have done at least that much. Russell Westbrook went to an NBA finals. Steph Curry has been to 3. Now, obviously, Chris Paul hasn't had the teammates that those dudes have had, and maybe that's why he's thinking about it. But at the same time, he does need to pause and take a moment to really reflect on his career and recognize that people are looking at him as a great talent, but just a great talent, and they don't really have anything else to say about him other than that, and that's a problem.
Well, his rookie year, he has shot 28% from 3. This last year, he shot 41% from 3. I don't know what people are talking about. If anything, one of the reasons Chris Paul can't improve much is because he's practically perfect. I mean, given his size and his speed, he doesn't have incredible speed and he's short. I don't know how much better one can play basketball. Look, he dribbles a little too much and stuff like that, but he was a complete product pretty early on. And is kind of a miniature LeBron James in a way. I mean, the guy is just amazing. That said, his star has fallen, but I think it's because there's a sense that teams on which he is the point guard are joyless. They don't seem to be more than the sum of their parts. For all what my former broadcast partner Marcellus Wiley calls the championship cologne that seemed to be all over Chris Paul. He just smelled like a champion. In fact, he's had very limited success in the playoffs. And so without that kind of extra credit, and with the kind of sense that maybe he's making the whole less than the sum of its parts, his star has fallen. But in terms of the argument that he hasn't improved, boy, I don't know how much more he can improve in terms of his skills. He's pretty near perfect.
I think he's super. He's pretty near perfect. He's big time. But that's what they're saying about him, and they're also holding him accountable for the deficiencies that a Blake Griffin or somebody else might have. Whether it's true or not is irrelevant. That's how he's being looked upon. They know his greatness, but at the same time, they get tired of hearing about it because he's never even in the conference finals, let alone an NBA finals. And they're like, why?
You got to make the unit better than the sum of its parts. He has not done that.
Good stuff, gentlemen. As always, plenty more to come here on First Take. Keep it locked. So to recap, Dan Le Batard came out and said you're a sucker essentially if you buy this fight. And your point was that, yes, it's spectacle, but that shouldn't deter us from buying it. So, Max, want to get your thoughts on Dan and Will's response.
Well, they're both right. And Stephen A., before you roll your eyes, that's a false dichotomy. The idea that either you're a sucker or you want entertainment. Sorry, suckers also want entertainment, and so do other kinds of people. This is entertainment, and so I agree. It's spectacle. People are interested, and let me tell you why. Because as I mentioned yesterday in greater detail, people are interested in fighting. It is literal. It's not metaphorical. It's literal. One person wins, the other loses. It's the literal imposition of will physically on the other person. And we sell sports, and people understand the world through stories, through narrative. And in order to tell an interesting story, you need interesting characters. You need to be emotionally invested in them. You need to know what's at stake for them. The problem is in combat sports, the two most famous, the two crossover stars, the two characters who people know don't participate in the same sport. They know Floyd Mayweather in boxing. They know Conor McGregor in mixed martial arts. Fortunately, they happen to be around the same size. And so they're fighting each other. And as I've mentioned, you can't kind of split the difference between the octagon and the squared circle, the ring. There's no hexagon for them to fight in. And so because there's more money for everybody involved at the moment in boxing, for this to happen in boxing, it's taking place as a boxing match. So it is spectacle. It will be a lot of fun. Everyone's going to buy it, including me, including you. Everyone's going to buy this thing, of course. But, so that's the spectacle component. The sucker comes in here. You actually think Conor has a chance to win? People think Conor going to win. People are trying to argue with me on Twitter that Conor is going to beat Floyd Mayweather in a fight.
Max, 37% said it. It's crazy.
It's unbelievable. Those are the suckers. So if you come expecting a competitive sporting event where one guy actually might win, Conor McGregor, then you're a sucker. If you come expecting spectacle and essentially a boxing exhibition from Floyd, you know what you're getting into. There's overlap in these sports, but they're not the same thing. Will, you played water polo. Do you think you could beat a guy who swam at your level in college but was who raced in college?
Have you once in our relationship noticed any humility in my game? Do you think I'd actually say someone could beat me?
Yeah, well, you know what I mean.
No, I saw you yesterday make this analogy. I watch the show when I'm not around. I get your point.
Right, and right, you would get whooped just like you just got whooped. Just the same way.
Yeah.
Stephen A.
Well, you lost me because you brought up a hexagon and then the water polo, and I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Here's the deal, okay? There is no sucker in all of this. Do you know why? Because it's not about whether you believe Conor or Floyd is going to win. It's about wanting to see it. Because they talk so much smack, somebody is likely going to fall, and you just want to watch it.
Thank you.
I mean, a lot of times you might very, very well know the outcome. You still want to see it. Dan Le Batard, my buddy, my brother, the bottom line is he's wrong because he's assuming that there are an abundance of people out there outside of Ireland and outside of the UFC. He believes that there are an abundance of other people elsewhere who legitimately believe that Conor McGregor is going to win this fight. And they don't exist. Not outside of Ireland and the UFC. They don't exist. And any MMA sport, they don't exist. They know. But anybody that knows boxing knows better than to think Conor McGregor is going to win. But you still want to see it. You still want to see what's going to happen. It's intrigue. It's just, you're just wondering. You're curious as to what it's going to look like, how it's going to be. Is Conor going to come in there talking smack? Is he going to sit up there standing like the world is his and Floyd Mayweather is just living in it? Is Floyd going to take it? Or is Floyd going to come at him? Is he going to try to school him and give him a boxing lesson? Or is he going to try to knock him out? You know Conor's going to stalk him. How quick will he fall? Stuff like that. That doesn't mean that you think that the outcome is going to be any differently than the rest of us, but you still want to see it, just like you want to see the car accident. There's the same Dan Le Batard that's so quick to say, people want to see the car. I mean, you think you guys are cerebral. Sit down for 5 minutes with Dan Le Batard. I mean, my Lord. I mean, it's just on another level. And this guy will sit there and he'll be quick to tell you how, hey, look, people want to see the car crash. They want to see it. They know it's coming. They're just waiting for it. Well, this is the quintessential car crash coming your way. You just want to see it. That doesn't make them suckers. That means that's just what they want.
Right.
What's the problem?
The idea that we're suckers by wanting to see this is that we're getting hoodwinked, right? We're getting fooled
Yeah,
into something.
That's what
Right.
Dan
We're
LeBron
not
meant. We're getting hoodwinked,
Right.
bamboozled,
No,
led
right.
astray,
We know what
run
we're signing
amok.
up
That's
for.
what he meant.
But by the way, I think also, okay, everyone admits, from Max Kellerman to Dan LeBatard, that there's some small, slight percentage of a chance that we're going to call the puncher's chance, right? Max, you can put
1%.
a number on it.
No.
1%.
1%,
No,
0.5%.
No, Conor McGregor has no chance at all.
So 0%,
He said
Max.
0.
0% chance.
Will,
All right,
Will,
that's a
he said
hyperbole.
0. He said 0. I said 1%.
Well, you're right,
because
Stephen A. It
I always
pains
give a
me.
puncher 1%.
There's nothing is at a 0% chance. Nothing.
Yeah, there's no absolute.
There's no such thing as a 0% chance. And here's what's on the line, by the way, Max. It's statements like your own. You know, what's on the line here, number one, is first of all, Floyd Mayweather's claim to greatest of all time. If that 1% or 0.5% chance exists, that's what the potential risk is to it. It's your, Max, it's your bold proclamation and all those that preceded it. And more important than that, it's the sport of boxing. The sport of boxing is on the line here because if that 0.5% chance, maybe it's a 0.01% chance, whatever it is, if it comes true, the idea that a man could walk in from, as you said, an entirely different sport, completely unqualified to do this.
Terrible for boxing.
What's that?
Terrible for boxing if that happens.
Perhaps
there's tremendous
cataclysmic.
downside.
Perhaps an ending punch for the entire sport.
Well,
that
no,
big a deal.
people have been predicting the demise of boxing, the permanent demise forever, and that's never going to happen. It'll always be around. But yes, boxing would take a literal Mayweather would take the literal shot, and boxing would take the metaphorical one. I mean, it would be disastrous for boxing if that were to happen.
Pretty big stakes.
And you're right. Nothing is 0% because the universe is fundamentally probabilistic. There is a chance that all the oxygen molecules in each one of the studio rooms in which we are now sitting wind up in the waste paper basket. That's quantum physics. There's a chance that happens. It's 1 in a trillion to the trillionth to the trillionth power, but there's a chance. And that's similar to Conor McGregor's chance to beat Floyd Mayweather. So if we all simultaneously start suffocating because of a random event like that, you'll get the idea of like that could happen too.
We are actually.
I'm glad
right
we cleared
now.
that up. So
we
all agree, including Max, there's a 1% chance now at this point. All right, let's leave it there. When we come back, Lonzo Ball is going to work out for the Lakers again today, but are they wasting their time on the wrong player? And is Dak Prescott already in the same category as Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady? Darren Woodson will join us to discuss where he ranks among the best